you show you are passionate about something, people are attracted to energy that is passionate, that is grateful, that is fun, that is loving, that is expressive, that is creative, that is expansive. They're not attracted to people who are, I think you gotta have a dream.
The School of Greatness.
Really?
Yeah. Please welcome Lewis House.
Welcome back, everyone, to this special video all about the law of attraction. Now, this is something I'm extremely excited about because it's something I've been practicing pretty much my entire life without actually knowing I was practicing the law of attraction. And I'm going to be talking about a lot of different ways that you can implement this if it actually works in every area of your life, habits you can put into your life as well throughout this entire video. But the law of attraction has been a huge part of my success and growth in multiple areas of my personal life. And I want to dive into what the law of attraction means and break down the different ways that you can use it to manifest your dreams and achieve anything you want in your life. But the biggest message I want to get across when it comes to the law of attraction is that it requires effort. It requires some type of action. That's why in the word attraction, you see action in the word. You don't just get to write down something on a piece of paper or have a vision board or map something out or cut out photos and look at it in front of you every single day, or write down things on a piece of paper and think hard about it for a few minutes and then expect everything in your life to change and to be this magnet of opportunities, to have everyone that you want in your life attracted to you, money, good health, opportunities with your career. It's not gonna happen overnight like that. And I wish it did, but it's not that easy. So there are some beliefs and actions that we need to take place in order for it to work, and that's what we're going to do by diving into today. So the first thing you want to think about is switching from negativity to positivity. So many people get caught up in focusing on what they don't want to happen in their future. And I want to talk about this a little bit towards the end of this video on how to focus on some of the negative things that could happen, but really focusing on the positive for the main part of your life. We'll talk about that towards the end because this is an important distinction. But they start living almost in constant fear of what could go wrong and what won't work out. And when we come from this place of, well, I don't know if I put myself out there, it's not going to work out, and then I'm going to get made fun of, and then I'm going to be embarrassed, and then I'm going to be stressed, and no one's going to love me. And then we go in this rabbit hole and this kind of cycle of fear and anxiety, and that is not how you attract good things in your life. You can't start from your way of being of negativity and fear and expect to attract beautiful things in your life. So we need to eliminate the negative self-talk, and an environment that's easy to get stuck in sometimes can be the negative self-talk. And there's so much negativity in the world. And if you don't actively work to shift your focus, to shift your thoughts in your mind, that negativity will consume you. And that's where the law of attraction comes in. Now, for me, it's about focusing less on what I don't want to happen in the future and actually focus on what I do want. And again, I think a lot of people focus on what they don't want too much. And you start to attract the things you're thinking about. I don't want this, I don't want that. Those things start to come to you. You start to see them. It's like the old example of someone says, don't think of a pink elephant. You start to see it and you start to imagine it. If you say, well, I don't want to be poor, you start to feel it and you start to imagine it and you start to have anxiety around it. So you want to really think about the positive things in your life. You want to think about, what do I want to attract? Who do I want to become? What do I want to overcome? So for example, if you're becoming a negative person, you're more likely to attract more negative people rather than positive ones, because positive people won't want to be around you. Negativity keeps company, and so does positivity. When you start to see other positive people that are like you say, I want to hang out with those people. Those people are going to continue to lift me up. I can lift them up. It's a good cycle. But the negative stuff you start to attract. When you talk about gossip and you talk about bad news and you talk about comparison and judgment and anxiety and stress, that feeds in a community of other people that speak in the same language. So you want to shift your language and start thinking more positively. And if you feel like you aren't deserving of a loving relationship, a loving partner, you're most likely going to attract the wrong type of people in your life. And if you're focusing on how much money you don't have in your life right now or how your business could fail, you're not going to be able to focus your energy on the right clients or the products that will take your business to the next level, or the skills you need to develop to help you grow. Now, your thoughts dictate your actions and where your energy goes. So you want to be thinking about, what can I do to replace these negative thoughts, the anxiousness or the fear? How can I replace it so my energy can go in a more positive direction? And again, where you put your energy into is what you attract. So if you're thinking negative thoughts all day long, you're probably going to attract that. If you're thinking gratitude and positive thoughts, you'll start to see that show up differently. So how can we put the law of attraction into practice? Now let's go back to our examples and apply a new way of thinking. If you're caught in thinking negatively about the world and about yourself, this is so important. What would change inside of you if you looked around and you wrote down 5 things that you're grateful for about the world? Now, this, for me, is part of the secret to the law of attraction. It's the foundation is gratitude. It's your way of being must be grateful in order to attract new things. There's so many things in my life that I should not have attracted because I didn't have the skills, because I didn't have the tools, because I didn't have the education, because I didn't have the money, because I didn't have the resources. So many things that I shouldn't have attracted, but because I had the foundation of gratitude, passion, joy, curiosity, those things started to come to me, and they can come to you as well if you come from that place of gratitude as your foundation. So you want to think about, what are these things that are important to me in my life? You know, it can be simple things. It could be like this cup of coffee that I have right now. It can be that I have a roof over my head, that I've got quality friends, that I'm healthy, you know, that I'm walking in nature today. It doesn't have to be some grandiose thing that's happened to you to be grateful for. I'm so grateful for these little present moments with people that I care about, to spend an hour on the beach, to go for a walk with a friend, to have a good conversation with someone and talk about something that I'm going through. For me, that's just as meaningful. The moments in between the big moments are just as meaningful. So write down these things or think about these things. This is something I embed in my daily life. When I wake up, I think about what I'm grateful for. When I go to sleep, I think about and reflect on the things I'm grateful for from that day. And it's just my way of being for as much as I can. Now, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, and there's some times I'm negative, but it's something that I try to really focus on as much as possible. So instead of saying that you're not enough, that you don't deserve success, what if you looked in the mirror on a daily basis? I dare you to look in the mirror on a daily basis and say, I am enough, and I do deserve the results that I want to create in my life because I show up, because I'm consistent, because I work hard, because I care about my work. If you looked in the mirror and you did this consistently for 30 days and you actually used the word action in attraction and you put it into practice on a daily basis towards that growth, I'd be amazed to see what you attract and what you manifest in your life. Or if you felt like you weren't deserving of a loving partner and just kept focusing on the wrong people, what if you said, you know what? I am deserving of a loving partner because I care deeply about those around me and I'm worthy of feeling deeply cared about myself. And what if you started to change your thoughts and behaviors around yourself and say, I'm not going to keep doing the things that I've always done. I'm going to start showing up differently and love myself and not needing someone else to love me who maybe isn't in the right mindset. And start distancing yourself from those typical patterns that you've had in the past and love yourself first and see what you attract from that loving, grateful place with yourself. Or if you are in a tough financial spot, maybe you're struggling financially and you've been trying to start a business or a side hustle. I've been there. I know what this feels like. It's not fun. For a long time, I was living on my sister's couch and I didn't have much money. It was really stressful. I remember this feeling of being stuck, feeling like I was never going to make any money. And when I was focusing on that feeling of I'm never going to make this money, I feel stuck, I feel trapped, when's this going to happen, feeling this anxiousness, this stress around it, it was really impossible for me to think of creative ideas. It was impossible for me to take action because I was living in the stress as opposed to the gratitude for what I was having in that moment. I should have been focusing on, you know what, my sister is allowing me to stay here for free, so I have some time to learn a new skill. I made $100 this day. I should be grateful for that. Not focusing on what I'm lacking or what I don't have, but what I am creating on a daily basis. And I started to ask different questions around this time, like how can I be of service to other people? How can I add as much value to someone else? Or what are my top skill sets that I can use to my advantage that no one else has. Like, what do I have? I started writing a list of all these different skills that I had. Even when I didn't think I had many skills, I still wrote down a list of the qualities I have, of the skills from the past that maybe I could apply to right now. And when I began asking those types of questions, I started attracting the people who needed my skill sets and services. And I finally started to make more money than ever before because I was thinking about serving others. I was thinking from a positive, grateful standpoint about helping others and starting a side hustle which turned into a business, instead of thinking negatively about not having any money, or I'm sleeping on my sister's couch and why is it taking me so long to create this and I'll never make anything from this situation. I started focusing on how can I add value, as much value as possible, to this one person in front of me right now. How can I serve them? How can I create for them? How can I connect someone to them that could help them? What can I do to add value and help someone else achieve their goals? Because I think, as Zig Ziglar said, if you want to accomplish all of your goals, help other people accomplish their goals. And that's what I started focusing on. Not what I'm lacking, but how can I give and how can I add value to other people? When you focus outward on service, you start to really attract some incredible things in your life. It's unbelievable, the ripple effect, the domino effect, one person helping another person, how it comes back around to you. And if you've ever felt this for yourself, leave a comment below of this feeling you've had when you started adding more and more value, getting out of the negative situation inside your mind and in your body, and focusing outward on helping others. It's incredible the things you can start to attract and manifest in your life. So we want to talk about practice for reflecting on your life. And I want you to look at your relationships, your health, your business, and the key areas of your life that are meaningful to you. And ask yourself these questions. Who are you spending too much energy on? Think about this right now. Who are you spending too much energy on in your life? Literally, you can write this down, or you can just think, like, who are the 3 to 4 people in my life that I'm spending too much time on that maybe I don't need to be spending this time on these individuals? What aspects of your health are hurting you because your energy is spent on things that don't support you, that don't give you more energy? For your business, what tasks or projects are taking up so much time that are stressing you out without much reward? Whether personal joy, whether it be actual financial reward, or moving a project forward. What are those tasks that you're in control freak mindset, doing too much of it, spending hours on something that you don't need to be doing? Start assessing these different areas of your life and think about, what can I really let go of in this place to start attracting more? You know, energy is everything when you're thinking about a law of attraction. And you need to be coming from a positive, grateful, abundant feeling in order to start creating more of that. You can't come from a feeling of lack, of scarcity, of not enough, of I don't love myself. If you don't love yourself, you're saying to the world, to the universe, to other people, why would I work with you? Why do I want to connect with you? Why do I want to be in love with you if you don't love yourself? So you got to start shifting that way of thinking, the way of feeling, the way of being, in order to really show up energetically around other people. One of my early mentors told me, the world makes room for passionate people. Think about it. If you are slunched over every single day like this, lacking confidence, stressed, anxious, depressed, and you're unable to get out of your own way because you're constantly thinking about how much you don't love yourself. I've been there. I know this feeling. If you're in that state, people aren't attracted to that. They're attracted to someone who is humble yet confident at the same time in their abilities. Someone who cares and can look other people in the eye. Someone who's got a big heart and opens up and is willing to receive information. Not someone who's slouched over and has, a middle finger up to the world. They want people who are open, who are willing, who are down to try things, who are passionate, at least passionate about the thing they care about. And when you show you are passionate about something, people are attracted to energy that is passionate, that is grateful, that is fun, that is loving, that is expressive, that is creative, that is expansive. They're not attracted to people who are closed off and guarded. That is not attractive. That is not sexy in any part of life, in relationship, health, business. You're not going to attract people from that place. So we're working to reprogram your mind and break the patterns that have been leading your life, because I've been there in so many different areas of my life for many different years that have held me back. And some I've been confident in certain areas and others I've lacked confidence. And this is a process and this is a journey, and it's not going to happen overnight. But we want to identify where your energy is going and focus on where is that energy and effort leading you and helping you. And as the author of The Secret, Rhonda Byrne, told me in our interview last year, she said, when you start noticing a damaging pattern, you can replace it with a new one. But you need to identify what the patterns are. I think sometimes we just aren't even aware. It's just a pattern that's running. It's something that's happening. Maybe it's been happening for months or years or decades. We're not even aware. It's just become our identity. So when you identify the negative identity patterns that are holding you back, that's the first step. And you can start to really shift and replace it with a new identity, a new pattern that you can implement. And you want to think about the people in your life. Now, are the people you spend your time with giving you energy, or are they draining you of your energy? And this is also, a side note, just because someone maybe doesn't agree with you or has different beliefs or, makes you feel reactive doesn't mean that they're always this toxic person. You get to figure out how you can respond to people, because not everyone's going to be a perfect human being around you all day long. You've got to learn how to respond and let go of the triggers that have been holding you back. It's usually never about the other person. It's always about, why is this hurting me? Why is this affecting me? Yes, if someone's being nasty towards you and saying mean things to you and deliberately and intentionally trying to hurt you, that is not okay. But sometimes it's just a misinterpretation. Sometimes it's a miscommunication, and we get so triggered. I know, because this used to be me. We get so triggered and so angry. We hold on to this. That doesn't help you. It's typically never about the other person. It's usually always about the thing we need to let go of and heal in our past so that we can be less reactive to life's daily interactions. So you want to think about, who are those people that maybe they are draining you, or maybe you need to figure out how to let go of your reactions. And if you're wanting to manifest loving relationships around you, you want to start thinking about, who are the people that are really supporting me and those that aren't. And are you keeping people around because you don't want them to leave your side, or are you keeping them around because they're actually adding value and you're contributing to adding value in their life as well? And if you were trying to put out in the world that you do want loving relationships around you, then bring the joy that you want to create. And if the people currently around you don't fall into that desire, then it's time to let them go, or just distance yourself. You don't have to say, I'm cutting you out of my life forever. Start to distance yourself to create time and space for more abundance of love in your life. And for your health, think about your health. How many of us feel like we are at a 10 and a 10 in our health, that we are optimal living with our bodies, our mental and emotional health. And the beliefs we hold about our bodies and health really can affect us. How we think about it can make us either sick or healthier. This is something that I've seen for myself, and I've seen so many people around the world. The fear of sickness and disease sometimes manifests in the body faster than actually getting something physically in the body that would manifest. And I've spoken to many different health experts, scientists, spiritual leaders on the podcast who share how much impact the mind has over the body. And we live in a world where it's easy to get caught up in the negative thinking about our body, shaming our body. My body is not enough. I've got too much fat here. I'm not big enough here. I'm too skinny. Whatever it is, the shame, the judgment, the comparison, that will consume you and it'll hold you back from attracting what you want. For example, you don't want people to see you in a swimsuit because you're not happy with your body. And that can make you self-conscious. It can make you feel depressed, which makes it harder to take action in the effort of attraction. So if we're constantly crippled by this fear or judgment or insecurity or shame, we're not going to take the action to help us attract and become a magnet for what we want in our life, the magnet of abundance, of love, of wealth, of health, of good friends, of opportunities, of creation. We're not going to be the magnet. So what if you focused on your desire to want to work out more, to eat better, to love yourself for where you are in your journey? What if you focused on that instead? And if you only focused on those pillars and not what others might think about you or how you look compared to someone else, what if you did that and focused on the day-to-day moments and the journey as opposed to where you are compared to someone else, then all of that is outside of you. And when you're putting your energy into thinking about insecurities or lack or stress or comparison, the opinions of others and the embarrassment if someone's going to laugh at me because I don't look as good, it doesn't allow you to put energy into bettering yourself. Now, this is not easy if we've never learned how to do this. This is not something that comes natural to most people if you've never learned how to do this. This is a practice. This is something that you're going to want to form a new habit and try and consistently show up for every day, if possible, to support you in the different areas of your life that you want to attract more abundance in. And with your business, how much energy are you putting into the fears of running out of money, scarcity, not having enough, of having a product that nobody will want, and comparing yourself to the other competitors and constantly competing in comparison as opposed to serving? How can I just serve the clients that I have? How can I add more value to them and let the results speak for themselves? And how can I constantly show up and be better as a leader and develop new skills so that I can attract new clients, so I can effectively have more confidence when I'm reaching out to prospects, so I can create more consistent content on social media, whatever it is you're trying to do. But if all of your energy is spent on the opposite, the stress of not having enough, of trying to sell and going broke and going out of business, it's keeping you from attracting more customers. It's keeping you from innovating your product and focusing on how you're able to serve more people and serve the world. So again, it all stems from this way of being. My way of being gets to be abundance. If I want to manifest the law of attraction in my life, it gets to be gratitude, joy, passion. It gets to be self-love, because you attract more from those places. But if you're coming from a place of negativity, of resentment, of anger, of fear, of stress, of I'm not good enough, why would people want to come to something or someone that doesn't feel good enough? Why would something great be attracted to something that says, I don't love myself? You got to think about this. When you can come from a place of, I love myself, I love the journey I'm on. Maybe I'm not where I want to be, but I love where I'm at right now, and every day I'm working towards the improvement of myself. I did this step that I said I was going to do. I was consistent when I said I was going to show up 5 days a week with my health or with these action steps. It's you following through on your commitments to yourself, which will attract more goodness in your life. It's when you're constantly breaking your word, is when you doubt your own self, because you're not being in integrity with yourself. So here's the tricky part that will take time to work through, yet it's so important for your growth. Where we direct our energy and focus is often related to beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world. Now, those beliefs can be traced back as early as our childhood, obviously from the different events that we go through in our childhood. And Rhonda Byrne's advice for this is start to listen to yourself and look at the things that you have really strong opinions about. Where you have a really strong opinion is a belief that's underneath that. You can dissolve those beliefs and feel free. Every time you are able to drop the phrase, I believe, from something, you feel completely free. It's amazing to feel light as a feather and actually feel invincible. Doubt and uncertainty play a big part in most people's lives, and those two things can be paralyzing. So just imagine living life with zero uncertainty. And when we understand and work through our beliefs that don't serve us anymore, and we can start to change our thinking to, well, what do I want for my life? That's when we can begin taking actions to help us achieve it. And that's what this is all about. So I want to share a few ways that I've used the law of attraction in my life. And I want to talk about some of the habits we're going to go into here in just a moment as well. But for me, I've used the law of attraction to really manifest different accomplishments and new experiences in just about every area of my life. And health has always been important to me, but that doesn't mean it's always been easy. And I use strategies, I use structure, and I use accountability to help me be consistent with my health. Because it's one thing to just think, you know what, I want to have a healthy body, I want to be stronger, I want to be faster, I want to be more athletic, I want to accomplish my athletic goals. It's one thing to say that, to visualize it, which is something that I do, which is part of the law of attraction. But man, especially if you've got a busy life, if you've got responsibilities, if you've got kids, if you've got work, there's only so much time to really attract the things you want and take action on those things on a daily basis. So I'm a big believer in creating structure in your life, in scheduling the most important things for you on a daily basis, on creating goals for yourself, and having a coach, an accountability buddy, someone you hire that shows up for you. So in my health, that's what I do. I've got a boxing trainer to help me improve a skill there and also get a good workout. I've got a lifting trainer as well. I schedule it in. I make time. Sometimes I have to do it in the middle of the day in between stuff in my business. Sometimes it's got to be early in the morning. Sometimes it's got to be at night. It's not always this most easy, ideal way of going about it. But when you want to create more in your life, when you're trying to be a bigger leader, there's going to be more pressures and responsibilities that show up with that effort. And so it's figuring out what is the most important things to do with my time. How do I schedule this in? How do I create accountability so I make sure I show up for my dreams and my goals so that when I look back 3, 6, 12 months of taking consistent action, things are manifesting and I'm attracting them because I'm showing up consistently. And success was always something that I dreamed of growing up, but in my early 20s, I struggled a lot from it because I wasn't really sure, after sports was done, I had to kind of refigure out, how do I apply this into life? How do I apply this into making money, into relationships? Because for me, it was all about sports and I had the structure, I had the accountability, I had the coaches, I had the team. After that, I didn't have that. So I had to transition. I had to let go of an old identity that I was holding on to, this identity of being an athlete, of trying to go pro. And once that was done, I had to shed the old identity and not hold on to it. Otherwise, I would be suffering. I would be depressed. I would be in negative thinking. I'd be thinking that I wasn't enough, that no one cared about me because they only cared about the old me. So I had to let that go, and so I could start attracting from a new space, a new identity. Another question that people like to ask me is, how did you use the law of attraction to start achieving success when starting out as well as in the current moment? So how did I achieve success starting out? And also now, how am I using it to accomplish what I want? Now, relationships are what matter most to me. A friend and mentor and coach of mine, Chris Lee, says that the key to success in life is relationships. And the key to successful relationships is vulnerability. And it's something that I truly believe in. If you want to get super connected to someone extremely fast, be vulnerable right away. And that'll open you up and that'll create that trust in a relationship with that other person to be vulnerable as well. So relationships are what matter most. Health, business, life, it stems from relationships, from family, friends, finding the right partner. If the relationships are in constant breakdown, your life will be in constant breakdown. It'll be hard to manifest what you want and attract the things. And I believe this area is often overlooked and people don't realize that you can really create more control over the relationships you put the energy into. And it all starts from your intention. It all starts from the way you communicate. It starts with how you show up for yourself and the relationships with yourself. But the way I started to do it early on was kind of what I've been talking about already. I truly get so clear on my goals. I get very clear on what I want to attract, and I think about it. I write it down. I'll create a certificate of achievement. I'll hang it on my wall. I'll put it on my phone and say, this happened. I sign it. I put the date of when it's going to happen, and I really reverse engineer and say, what are the actions to attract this goal? What are the actions to attract this goal? Who do I get to become? It starts from the way of being. It starts from your energy and your intention first. Then that energy goes into the action. So if you have a negative energy, but you're taking action every day, you won't attract the things you want and be fulfilled. Maybe you'll attract some certain things, but you'll still feel this negative lack of fulfillment because it wasn't coming from a place of joy, of gratitude, of appreciation, of growth, of possibilities, of creativity, of service. And that's when you really shift from that intention and that energy from those places, as opposed to, I'm doing this to prove others wrong. I'm doing this to show my parents that I could do this. I'm doing this to look good. I'm doing this because I want to have all these awards and show it off. When you come from that place, you can accomplish what you want, but at the end of the day, are you truly going to be fulfilled? And that's something that we've all got to learn the hard way if we're not willing to come from joy, passion, gratitude, and service. Another question someone might ask is, how have you used the law of attraction when it comes to your friendships, business relationships, partnerships, and other relationships? At this stage of my life, I've learned a lot about relationships, and I have a long way to go to learn more about relationships. But I really think about in friendships, does this person think a similar way as me? Does this person on a similar path of service? Does this person have a good heart? Do I have fun with this person? Can we have cool activities together that we share and enjoy? And I think about that. Is there a natural flow to our friendship? Is there a give and take that we both have? Or am I the only one that gives and they take? I think about these things and I try to create alignment with friends. Okay, cool. We're on a similar journey. Maybe they're in a completely different industry or career path, but if we have a similar philosophy and way of being and energy, I like to be around positive people. So I attract friends from that same place of positivity and gratitude. In business partnerships, I think about who are the partners who will complement me, not similar to me, but who would complement me, who have other skills and assets that I don't have. And I think about, what am I really talented at? How can I be a driver of this business and the skills that I have? And how can I find a complement partner who can support in the things that I'm not good at? I think about that there in relationships. I really think about a lot when it comes to more intimate relationships. And for me, it starts with the foundation of 4 key things: spiritual connection, mental connection, emotional connection, and then for me also the sexual connection. But the foundation on the first 3 first. If you can build from that place and have a similar mindset, similar values, similar vision, that's what I really look for in more intimate relationships as well. Do we have those 4 foundational points in common? Are we aligned on these things? Do we have our values aligned, our vision aligned for what we want to create in a relationship? For me, that's a big part of it. So creating from that space and attracting from that space. And that means being very courageous with your words, very courageous in your communication and saying, this is exactly what I'm about. This is what I'm looking to create. This is where I'm going. This is my future, what I see for myself right now. Here's my values. Speaking from a place of integrity, speaking from a place of courage, to almost say, can this person hang? Can this person keep up with me? Because this is what I believe. Not hiding those things, but putting yourself out there. You'll either attract or you'll repel. And it's better to repel quickly than keep some things hidden for a year or 2 and realize, oh, we don't align. So be courageous with your words, be courageous with your actions and your feelings towards that. Another question, how did you visualize the School of Greatness book being at the front of the table in bookstores? So I remember for years, back in 2007, I read a book called The 4-Hour Workweek. And I remember at the end of this book, and for most people that listen or watch the show, it's hard for me to finish books. I talk about this all the time, growing up being dyslexic, having a 2nd grade reading level when I went into the 8th grade and got tested there. And so it's a lot for me to want to finish a book. I skim a lot, I research and I go through the books, but it's a lot for me to start from word 1 to the last word and read every word without just skimming it. In 2007, I read a book called The 4-Hour Workweek, and I remember at the end, I remember shutting the book and saying, wow, this is inspiring. It opened up something new for me that I never knew was possible. This kind of like online world that I started going down the rabbit hole and really researching more about it and reading blogs and articles and trying things from onward after that. This is the end of 2007 at Christmas time. And I remember closing the book and saying, one day I'm going to meet Tim Ferriss, the author of this book, and I'm going to connect with him. We're going to be friends. I'm going to do business with him. And also, whoever the agent is for this book, one day I'm going to write a book that's going to be a New York Times bestseller. And this agent for Tim is going to be my agent as well. And I remember a few years later, I ended up meeting Tim. I ended up meeting Tim's agent. A few years after that, I kept creating, I kept showing up, I kept building myself, my business, my brand, that eventually his agent was my agent. And I remember saying to him, I want to write a New York Times best-selling book that does something similar to the book that I read years ago, where it unlocks possibilities in other people's life. It helps them create something new. It helps them see something different they never saw, and they can take action from that place, from a new possibility. And I did this on a consistent basis. And when the book came out, the book was front and center in all Barnes & Nobles right when you walked in. It was a New York Times bestseller. And it closed the loop for me visualizing this. I think it was 7 or 8 years prior where I had this dream of writing a New York Times bestseller, doing stuff with Tim Ferriss, of his agent being my agent, and changing millions of lives. So the idea was planted. The seed was planted then when I had nothing. When I was, I had a cast on my arm. I just had a surgery. I was sleeping on my sister's couch. I had nothing. There was no evidence. There was no proof. There was no results that would show that I would write a New York Times bestselling book. There was nothing. There was no evidence that I had the skills. There was no evidence that I had the resources, the talent, the time to get his agent as my agent, to write a great book, to be able to market a book. I had no audience. I had no following. But the seed was planted at that moment. And I wrote it down and I visualized it often. And I said, who do I need to become? What do I need to create? What do I need to overcome? What do I need to let go of in order to take the right actions to attract this dream? And if you haven't got the book yet, make sure to check out the book, School of Greatness, and get it anywhere. You can go online, go on Amazon, go to bookstores, check out the book. And I hope this gives you some principles, some ideas, some strategies to help you attract more with the law of attraction from yourself. We talk about really the 8 key principles that we've dissected from all the different interviews in the School of Greatness podcast. From all the greatest minds in the world, it's dissected into 8 key principles here in the School of Greatness. So if you want to create more abundance in your life, make sure you check out this book, buy a copy, get one for your friends, and devour it, go through it. Another question, how do you visualize the School of Greatness becoming a TV show? This is interesting. This must have been 7 or 8 years ago as well. I was traveling and doing more public speaking at that time, kind of getting started in my public speaking career. And I would go to all these different hotels around the country. And I remember when you turn on the TV in a hotel, it usually starts at channel 1, and you see kind of the first 8 to 12 channels right away when you scroll through the TV guide. And I remember seeing PBS is usually in the top 10 channels, PBS channel. And I would always see this talk show, this talk show with inspiring people, the host and inspiring people. And I was like, huh. And I'd watch this talk show, and it would be back-to-back hours. Pretty much every major city I went to in the middle of the day, I'd see these back-to-back hours for this talk show on PBS, public television. And I said, man, my show had just gotten started at that point, the School of Greatness, and I was like, I feel like I could do this. I mean, I'm getting similar type of guests. Like the conversations are just as powerful. Like, why couldn't I be on PBS? Why can't we create this? We already have the content. And I remember the seed was planted then. I saw it and I said, okay, this is something I want to create. I have no clue how to do it, but what are the steps to get me there? What do I need to do? Who do I need to become? What do I need to let go of? What insecurities? What do I need to build in order to attract this, in order to say, PBS is going to say yes when we come to them, or they're going to approach me. And 7, 8 years later, we are now on public television, on PBS, around the country. And it was a process. It was a journey. It took time. It didn't happen overnight. Some things happen quickly when you start to apply the law of attraction. The bigger goals and dreams, sometimes it happens quickly, but sometimes it takes years. It really all depends on where you're at in your life. But it happened, and now we're there. And it's a beautiful experience to see, again, closing the loop from a seed that was planted 6, 7, 8 years ago is now happening, is now manifested, is now blossoming. And sometimes when we plant the seed, it doesn't grow overnight into this giant oak tree. It takes time to fertilize and build and water. And that's you developing new skills, overcoming challenges, and becoming a better version of yourself. So if you want to check it out, make sure to go to lewishowes.com/watch, and I'll show you where you can go on your local TV station to check out the show on public television and PBS all around the country as well. We'll have that linked up in the description below also. I want to talk about daily habits to make the law of attraction really stick. Now, we all have busy lives, like I said, and it's not easy to break old habits or create new habits when we have responsibilities, a busy life, and you feel overwhelmed or stressed already. But there are some daily habits that you can really introduce to start utilizing the law of attraction. And step 1 is to visualize what you want in your life to look like the first thing in the morning. What do you want your day to look like? How do you want to feel throughout this day? Starting with this and taking it one day at a time will eventually begin to compound. And you'll have weeks where you're becoming the type of person you really want to become, and you'll see it to manifest over time. Step 2 is to write down your goals for the day. Now, this is something that I do for my dreams in the future, that are these big dreams and goals, but also what do I want to accomplish today? And doing both of those, the kind of longer, bigger dreams, but also what's the daily goal? When you do that, and once you see it in your mind and put it in paper so you can remember it, it helps you revisit it to track your progress when you do this process. So really focus on writing down your goals daily and also thinking about what are my long-term goals and dreams and what am I doing to show up for them daily. Step 3 is to speak it out loud. Like we mentioned earlier, what if you said to yourself, I am enough. I am worthy of love. I'm going to serve my community today with my business or with my talents or my gifts. And saying these things out loud to yourself is like training your brain to actually believe it. And then when you say it and you follow through on the actions you commit to, that you write down, you start to believe it even more. And step 4 is to reflect at the end of the day on how your day went. Thinking about your visualization in the morning, writing down your goals, and the spoken affirmations. Tracking your progress to see how your life is changing in real time. And you can really start to see these things after a week. You implement this consistently for a week, you start to say, I feel a little bit different. I got a little different result today from my friends and my family and relationships. You start to see these things happening pretty quickly. And when you do this and you track the progress, it will hold you accountable and it'll be amazing to look back on in a month from now. One of the mistakes I see most often is not getting clear about what you truly want. Now this is tough because in this time during our life, there's a lot of distractions, a lot of opportunities, a lot of things that people want to do at once. But if you're chasing so many things at once, you'll never really create and catch the one thing you want to get. People will hear about manifesting and start to just say things like, well, I want more money, or I want to become the most physically fit version of myself. And then they leave it at that. And if you think or speak in those general terms, then not much happens when you do that. Here's the key. The more specific you are, the more likely the actions you take and the energy you put out will help you achieve that goal. It's all about the specifics of this. Remember when I closed the book up and I said, I am going to meet Tim Ferriss one day. His agent is going to be my agent. I'm going to write a New York Times bestseller. It's going to change millions of lives around the world. I was very specific about my vision, about my goals, about manifesting what I wanted to create. And this happened. This happened specifically. I've done that in many different areas of my life. And if you aren't clear, you'll continue to go down multiple distraction paths instead of one focused one. You'll start to see opportunity after opportunity, and you'll put all your energy spread out as opposed to focused on growing in one area to start. So you need to really sit down and really think about this and get as clear as possible. That's why it's so important to write down your goals and be specific. Write down the dates by when. When do you want to manifest this by? When do you want to create this by? One of the biggest mistakes people make after getting super clear on their dreams is not taking any action at all. So I'm declaring I'm going to go create this goal. It's going to happen. And then nothing happens because you can't just visualize and write down your goals and say your affirmations and look in the mirror and do this and expect all your dreams to come true. You cannot do this. I see this all the time with people sharing their big goals on social media. I'm going to lose 100 pounds by this date. I'm going to create this much of my business. And they start to speak it. They write it down. They got their vision board. And you see it all over social media, and then they never see them share any actions. After the first week, they take action, then it gets hard. They usually don't have the other things in place, the structure, the accountability, the coaching, the support, all the things you need to really support you in consistent action, the discipline of consistent action over time. And those are the things that will support you with your goals. Now, I don't want this for you. I don't want you to just have these dreams and then them not be manifested. The practices we've spoken about help you get clear. So I don't want you to just think about this and visualize this and not get the results you want and be a magnet of attraction. The practices we've spoken about help you get clear and in the right mindset. But you have to be willing to take action for anything to actually happen. And you have to do this consistently. When I think about the results we've created in the School of Greatness, 8.5 years, over 1,100 episodes, The consistency is something that I tell people. They say, Lewis, what's the secret to the success of the School of Greatness and how you've got over 400 million downloads, how it's one of the biggest podcasts in the world, one of the fastest growing YouTube channels. Now it's on PBS and public television. You've got a New York Times best-selling book. You sell at your conferences. You've got all these opportunities, 7 million followers on social media. What's the secret? I literally sound like so boring when I say, I just show up every day. I show up consistently every day. And I've been doing it for over 8.5 years consistently. And before that, I was doing it for 20 years, developing myself as an athlete, learning about goal setting, learning about confidence, teamwork, skill sets, all that stuff. But the key has been showing up consistently, daily, for 8.5 years. That's what I do. The consistency of it is the magnet, is what attracts people, is what creates respect, what creates trust, what creates authority, all these things in the space that you're in. So you want to think about the action that goes in with this. And one of my favorite examples of this is from my friend Sarah Blakely, who is the founder of Spanx. And before Spanx, she was selling fax machines door to door for years and feeling kind of hopeless about where she was going. So she went home and wrote in her journal that she wanted to invent a product that she could sell to millions of people. She wrote down that her biggest strength was sales. So if she had the right idea for a product, she could handle the rest. And she wrote that down. She was visualizing selling to millions of people. And then a couple years later, she came up with this concept for Spanx, which has become a $1 billion business. Now imagine if you were able to stay consistent for 2 years. What would happen for you? And imagine if Sarah had then given up and gone back to her old habits after a few days or a few weeks. Maybe she was excited for a little bit. She said, you know what? I'm too scared. I don't want to take the risk. I'm going to give up. I'm not going to be consistent. That change didn't happen overnight, but she put these ideas on paper, visualized it, and was consistent in her action. And look what she was able to create and manifest. I am so excited for the change that you're going to be making in your life. And I actually have a free exercise all about creating your vision for your life that you can go download by going to lewishowes.com/vision. Go there right now. It's free. You can download it. Again, lewishowes.com/vision. It'll be in the description below as well. And if you go sign up there, you'll get an exercise immediately in your email that'll help you get clear on your vision and really start to manifest these things you want in your life. And I want you to share with me on social media or in the comments below in this video what you're going to be attracting and manifesting for yourself and how you're going to put this into practice. So write down 1 to 3 big goals you want to create for your life that you want to attract, maybe in your relationship, your money situation, your health. What's the thing you want to attract for yourself? Leave a comment below and let me know what those things are. Make sure you check out the School of Greatness book. Let me know what you think about this. Get this for a few friends if you think that would be helpful for them to help them manifest and attract more. If you're looking to attract and manifest more money in your life, and if you haven't gotten the Millionaire Morning yet, make sure to go to millionaireMorning.com and get this. It's an amazing booklet. We've had so many people message me on this recently about how they're attracting and manifesting more wealth in their life on the Millionaire Morning. All about the habits and routines in the morning to help you become more rich and attract more wealth for yourself. So check this out. It's a short booklet that'll help you with a lot of different exercises in here. millionaireMorning.com. And we've got some more content that I want to share with you. If you like this, then I'm going to share with you right after this some incredible stuff about the law of attraction. So make sure to stick around for this. And I want to remind you, if no one's told you lately that you are loved, you are worthy, and you matter. How has your life been post-Secret?
Oh, amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing. And I mean, it was deliberate. Like I did Oprah because I knew that Oprah lived by these principles. So yes. I knew that the show would be very constructive. And because I just shared something that I discovered and I absolutely knew was the truth. I looked back on my life and I could just see my whole life just lined up in front of me. And I was just like, oh, this is the absolute truth. And I was so amazed that I was still on earth because, some of the negativity that I'd got into in my life, and that the universe definitely loves us. Right. because the fact that I was still standing. So, yeah, I just, I really wanted the secret message to be the hero. And we can have a tendency to idolize, people. And I did not want that to happen. I wanted people to know a little bit about me and how I discovered it and the year that I'd had. But I didn't want any of that to detract from the message. And so I wanted the message to be king. So I did a few things that were very specific. And I had everyone in the world like wanting me to do things. But I just didn't want to get into sort of arguments with anybody, because anybody that doesn't want this, that is so fine by me. I'm not out to convince anybody of anything. I'm just like, I discovered this and my life is unrecognizable, and it is so easy, and you can have everything you can have everything you want, you can have everything, you deserve everything. And then if there are people that don't want that, that's totally fine. And so that's why I was very kind of selective. And I had worked in media as well, and I knew that sometimes media can really build you up and then take you down.
Yeah, of course.
So I didn't want to be turned into some kind of guru, because I wasn't that. I'm not that. I'm just like everybody else there. I'm just normal everyday something, sort of looking like a person, but
Sure.
yeah. So it was kind of very particular on my part. However, within those years, I spent a lot of time answering emails from people who wrote in and asking for advice on various things. So also writing other books as well, and working on a lot of projects. So I just dedicated my life to adding more material to make things easier for people, make life better for people, rather than so much doing media. But then with this book, I don't know, there's just something inside of me said, now you have to do this. It's very important you do this. So here I am.
Well, I'm so grateful that you decided to come on the School of Greatness. I think it's a great marriage. I'm curious, for those who, my audience is pretty in tune on the law of attraction and on mindset and understanding thoughts and feelings. This is something we talk about all the time. And people are truly seeking information to improve their life every day when they listen here. I'm curious, for those that maybe came here for the first time, can you share what is the law of attraction? And is it possible that anyone can truly achieve what they want if they use it effectively? And also, part two of this question, what's the quickest way to hold you back from the law of attraction?
So one of the ways that I talk about the law of attraction, or the secret, is sort of in a different way from the way I used to speak about it, because I'm always looking, how can I make it even simpler? And I mean, basically that work talks about the power of the mind and the power of thought to create our physical world and material world. And then the greatest secret takes that to a whole new level, actually. And so then you really get to see that, oh my gosh, it's super easy to create anything I want. Like, really so easy. Because if we have a belief it's hard, then it's going to be hard, And so it has everything to do with our mind and what we believe. And so if we believe a thought, it will manifest. End of story. Manifest.
So if we believe we are deserving of great love, then we will manifest it. If we believe we are going to be poor, we're going to stay poor. If we believe we don't deserve something, then it's not going to come to us.
And, it's interesting because for all of us, and we've been conditioned, I mean, you were very fortunate because you had a childhood where your mind was opened and you were opened and your heart was opened. And that's the biggest thing, is to open yourself to the possibility that everything isn't the way it appears to be. And so even if you can just open yourself to that possibility just for a moment, you can pick up it all the next day. You can take it all with you the next day, that it's all real and everything that you're seeing. But if you just for a moment open to the possibility that things might not be the way that you think they are, then you have the greatest opportunity to really discover something incredible, how incredible you are. So So with The Secret, yeah, I describe it really. And so I really simplify it and the law of attraction, because I would say to anybody, if you would just think about what you want, that's all you'd ever get in your life.
Ooh, it's as simple as that. But a lot of
Right?
people, yeah, but a lot of people think a lot of negative things
They do.
consistently. It's on a loop that just holds
Yeah.
them into this negative pattern. So how do we break that negative thought pattern?
Right. The mind is like a computer program. So, and the fact that it's on a negative loop is because we programmed it on a negative loop. But we could have been influenced when we were children and things like that. One of the things that the mind loves repetition. I mean, loves it. If you really watch your thoughts, this is the same old thoughts over and over again. It's just kind of dishing up the same old thing. So it loves repetition. So the way you can override a program is to put in the opposite, and when you start out, you feel like you're lying, you'll say something like, you might be really broke. Gee, I was when I was making The Secret. So you might not have any money and you're trying to instill, wealth and prosperity and riches. And every time you say it, you feel a contraction in your body because you don't have it. But, truly, because I did it myself, after a while you change it. You really begin to change it and you don't quite have that contraction anymore. And then you start to see money coming in, in different ways. Or you can be given things that you were going to buy and now you don't have to buy it. Or so you start to see signs of land, is one of the great new thought writers would say, talk about a sign of land. So you start to see sign of land. Now, that's what I did in The Secret. You can do gratitude. That will turn everything around. That will make you feel good. That will get you off the negative rant. But those negative thoughts are coming from beliefs held in the subconscious mind, right? That's
Where do the
those
beliefs stem from for most of us?
They stem mostly from our childhood, conditioning. Yeah. Our parents said something to us, we just swallowed it, hook, line, and sinker. We're like, right, that's a belief. And so we take it in and then we have all these beliefs that and you can hear, if you're talking to somebody, like if somebody says, oh, I believe da 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 da, or because we say that all the time, or somebody says, I think da 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 da, behind those two statements are going to be a belief. And so the really interesting thing, they're hard to spot because you believe they're true.
They seem real.
Right?
Yeah.
So you don't think they're a belief. You think they're real, and so they can be hard to spot. But if you start to listen to yourself, I believe, or I think, or especially look at the things that you have a really strong opinion about, because where you have a really strong opinion is a belief that's underneath that. So one of the things that in the latest book is that I show how to dissolve those beliefs, and just really by some of the things that I've just mentioned, and you can dissolve them, and you just feel free every time a belief goes out. You feel completely free. It's amazing feeling. You just feel as light as a feather, and actually you feel invincible.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine, like if we have for example, the feeling of doubt, right? Doubt and uncertainty. Now, doubt and uncertainty play a big part in most people's lives, and they can be paralyzing, those two things. So just imagine living a life, zero doubt, zero uncertainty. I mean, incredible.
How do we get to a place of not doubting ourselves?
You can, because you need to know who you are. You need to know who you are so that you don't doubt yourself, because the one that is doubting is the ego, the one that is doubting is the mind, and it's not who we are. So then you've got to become very aware of your thoughts. That one that is doubting, the negative thoughts, they're all coming from the ego, right? All of them, because who you are would never have a negative thought ever. Who you are would never judge. Who you are who you are is allowing and accepting. And so all of those things are coming from the ego, and they are not who you are. And that voice in your head that you hear, that voice that's, so familiar to you and seems to know an awful lot about you, and sounds like you, that voice is not you. That voice is just a program.
What was the voice that was in your head consistently pre-secret that you had to overcome that belief?
Wow.
And then what's been the program? Because I feel like every new evolution of us is going to be some type of thing to overcome. So has there been something you've had to overcome in the last 15 years post-secret to get to the next level?
Definitely negative thoughts.
Before the secret, you had a lot of negative thoughts?
Heaps. I was like everybody. I was just like, I was pointing out all the things that were wrong. And somehow I was kind of brought up, and I think a lot of us are, that you're a good person if you point out the things that are wrong, You have to speak up and say, that's wrong. That shouldn't be happening. And so I was kind of brought up with that too. And so that's brought up with judgment. And that does not help us at all. Judgment, we need to put it in the trash because that does not belong with us. And the one who is judging is the ego. It's the ego. It's judging. The one that has negative thoughts is the ego. So I had all of that going on. I had doubt, I had uncertainty, I had feelings of unworthiness, I had heaps of stress. Oh my God, heaps of stress. I was
this is pre the book.
Pre-secret, yeah. Living on the edge, I was like this with life, like white knuckles, What's going to happen next? Something bad's going to happen, and being really afraid it's, something's going to happen to somebody I love, or so. I mean, I live my life like that, and I think everybody does, and they just kind of keep it all squashed down, but most people live their life that way. And I mean, in the last year, if you've been terrified, in the last year, and really fearful in the last year, all of that fear has been given to you as this lovely gift, when you were maybe a child, and it's like, here's a whole lot of things to be fearful about. And then we go through fear. And I mean, it's very easy to see that there's no pandemic that is a fear-based pandemic. Why do we know that? Because there are many people who are not afraid. And so if the pandemic was, in the world, was actually a real fear manifestation, then every single person on the planet would be fearful. And while there are a lot of people fearful, there are still a lot who are not. Yeah. So that just shows you that the fear was already here with us, right, before the pandemic came along.
Right.
Yeah.
And what was the belief that you still had to overcome post-secret? Because you overcame a lot to be able to create something like that. There was this incredible movement. But then were there other negative beliefs that still held you back?
Oh, yeah. The biggest one was that I was abundant. That was the biggest one.
That was your limiting belief?
That was the one I had been brought up with. We can't afford it. We don't have enough, and money would come into my hands. It would slip through my fingers. Things would break down. The universe would do all these things to get the money out of my hands. It would just like take it away. Yeah, because I had this belief that I did not have an abundant amount of money, and that I was always in struggle. And that came from my parents, bless them, they're beautiful. But that came from them, we can't afford it and all of those things. So I was brought up with that, as many of us are. So the one that I had the biggest thing to overcome, the biggest thing to overcome was the belief in lack of money. And I knew I needed to overcome that for the secret to sweep the world.
To be able to attract and bring you.
Yeah, because if I didn't overcome that, how could it possibly?
Why would money come to you then?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had to overcome it.
How did you overcome that? I mean, how do you overcome the fear of lack, of the not having enough, I'm not worthy of money? How do we finally transition into abundance?
I did that by many, many things. I tried many things, all kinds of, I was experimenting with it. So, I mean, I would just walk down the street and say, there's prosperity everywhere. I'm breathing in prosperity. I'd do all these. affirmations. I'm breathing in prosperity with every breath I take. My substance is prosperity. I am abundant. I am worthy, And so I would say all these affirmations. I would have them all pinned up around the apartment that I was staying in. And so that I would see them and read them every day. So that was just one thing I did. Then what I would do, the biggest thing was, because at the time I was in incredible debt. I was making The Secret and I just didn't have the money to make it.
Wow.
And I started out $2 million in debt, mind you, because of a whole lot of shows that went really wrong. And so
you were producing TV shows at the time.
Yeah, right. I was. And so, $2 million in debt makes it sound like I had a lot of money. I never had anything like that money. But these particular movies that we're making, they ran over budget. And so I started with $2 million in debt.
Wow.
I remember I discovered The Secret and I went to my accountant and I said, you have to do whatever it takes to keep my company afloat. I'm going to make something that's going to change the world. I'm going to make it. You keep my company going. And so, and
Wow.
and he just said, okay. And so I took out, oh my gosh, I maxed every credit card I had to the limit. I mortgaged my home to the absolute limit. I took overdrafts out on my company so I could make the documentary.
Wow.
And so I had crushing debt coming in on me and I needed more money to keep making it. So it was a journey of absolute luck, and the luck was just an expression of what I'd been brought up with. So I had to turn that around. So one of the things I did, like when I would go and then you would get your bills or accounts in the mail, it wasn't all online. And so I'd go to the mailbox and straight away my stomach would like, and if anybody's been in that situation where you just don't have enough money and you've got all these bills, it's a horrible feeling, and my whole body would contract and I would know that is attracting a lack of money and that's not attracting abundance. So I used to do this thing whereby I would do gratitude and I would listen to music and I would do as many things as I could until I felt really, really good. And I would just say to myself, I am abundant, and nothing would object. No thought would object. And I'm like, right, now's the time to open the mail, right? Well, I'm feeling really, really good. And so then I would open the bills and I would look at each one as though it was a check. I would imagine it's a check, not a bill.
So you played a game in your mind and you're like,
I put a game in my mind.
Here's a $100,000 check.
And I would go, wow, look at all the checks I got today. And so I would do that, and then I'd open them up and I'd be like, wow, $160 check and, a $2,300 check. And then I felt like it wasn't, I would add them all up and that's how much I received today. And then I would think, you know what? I need to be receiving more money than that. So I would add zeros to the bills. And I would pretend that they were, instead of $160, was $16,000 check that was coming to me. And so I would add it all up and I received all this money. So that was one of the other games that I played. And then I did something quite radical. It was an experiment and test, and all of these things I did so that I could tell what worked and what would work for people. And so I thought, what's the way that I can feel really good about money? Because when you don't have enough, it's really hard to feel good about money.
Really hard,
right?
yeah.
Really hard. And so I thought, what's the one way that I can feel good about money? Okay, the way that I can feel good about money is if I give some away. And so what I did
what about if you have no money to give away?
I took it out on my credit card.
Wow.
I took out these $20 bills on my credit card. I think I could access $100 or something. So I took out all of these $20 bills and I thought, right, I'm going to walk down the street, and I said to the universe, show me who to give it to. And so I would walk down the street and I was looking at everybody's faces. And I don't know if you've ever done that in your life, is just so silently walk down a street and look at people's faces, like with a heart wide open. And I was just melting, looking at all these people's faces. And And then it was just amazing because the universe would just show me who to give it to. Like these kids walked out of a store and they're like counting their money. Oh, I don't have enough to get that, they're wanting to get something in the store. And so just, gave them $20 and they're like, thanks, lady, and ran back in the store to get, the ice creams or whatever they wanted. And it was an ice cream store, I think they were out the front of. And so yeah, I just went down the street giving away this money. And in fact, there were two, I think there was two or one $20 note that it just like stopped. It wasn't clear anymore who to give it to. And so I just stopped. Do you know that was on a Friday, and on the Monday, I received $25,000 in my account from a place that I never, ever, ever could have expected.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
Right?
It's crazy.
Isn't it something?
Was there any other tests or games that you tried to, change your thoughts and play with your mind to start seeing yourself as abundant and in prosperity?
Yeah, I did. I did lists of all of the things that I was going to get, all of the things I was going to buy, when the money came in. So I did all of these lists and I imagined that I had those things already. And I remember it was like, I want a house on the ocean. I really went all out, that was just some list. One of the things I remember is that I'd always wanted a Range Rover all of my life. And that was just beyond anything I could afford. And especially in Australia, like they were crazy prices. So, but still I put it on the list and I put all these things on the list. But, interestingly enough, like I did that because that was a way to turn money around. But when The Secret got released, I didn't care about any of it because, and I didn't even care. All that mattered was that I had got it out into the world and now it was in the world. It could never be taken away. And that is what mattered to me more than anything, is that was going to get into people's hands. And so, but still, I have to tell you, got all the things on the list. There's amazing views out here of the ocean. I ended up by getting a Range Rover. And so, yeah, but I did a lot of practices and I have shared those practices in a lot of the books. And also we created an app, which was The Secret to Money. And so there are a lot of the practices that I put in that app. And I was just dedicated.
Wow.
Because I knew this was a big thing for people and that if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is you keep doing it until you do not feel any more lack anymore, until there are no more thoughts coming up saying, oh no, you're broke, thoughts where you're even looking at the money going out with like a contraction. Something else I did, I imagined that with those bills that I would open, I imagined that I was giving those people money and helping their families and helping. So I would imagine that as well. That was something else I did, that I am, that when I paid a bill, I would really sit down and I would think about all of the people that worked in that company and all of their families. I would feel the feelings of all of that. Then I would think about all of the industries that service that company that I was paying the money to, and that all of the money that I'm paying affects all of those people and helps their family and helps them get food. And so that was sort of another way that I felt really good about money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you ever wish The Secret came to you sooner in your life, when you were starting your career or, at a place where you're like, man, I could really use some money right now, 10 or 15 years prior? Did you ever, or are you grateful that it came at the exact moment it came?
Hey, it would have been nice had it come earlier. But
Do you think you would have been ready for it?
No. I think the timing of the universe is perfect on everything. And I don't think, I don't know that I would have heard it. I don't know. Like I needed every single thing that took place in my life to happen. And I had a couple of really rough years before 2004. And then 2004 was a doozy. That's why it knocked me to the ground. And I've looked back on all of those things and I'm so grateful for every one of them, because I needed every one of those things to go wrong to get me to the place that I got to. And
wow.
and I'm just so grateful. I could have like lived my whole life without, finding anything. And I just think I'm so blessed.
Isn't it interesting? A lot of people that I've interviewed have gone through some type of big breakdown in their life or
Yeah.
at some stage. And isn't it interesting that it's hard for us to truly grow and find the wisdom we need to find without when things are going good or when they're going kind of bad? But it's almost like we need to have some type of breakdown we need to have a near-death experience, a breakup in a relationship or divorce,
Yeah.
an injury, a career loss, in order for us to wake up and say, something's not working. I need to find the answers and the
Yeah.
information to help me improve my life. Why do you think
Oh, I
has to be
know.
so hard for us
Yeah.
to seek and find the truth?
Yeah. I think it's because, and I would say to people, you do not have to suffer, I mean, I write books so they don't have to suffer, but it just does seem to happen that way. And I think there are a few reasons why. I think when we kind of collapse, there's a part of us that surrenders a little bit. If I think back to that night when I discovered the secret, I've played that over and over in my mind. And definitely I mean, there was not the ego that's got so many ideas and opinions. I've always said that night that the despair was so great inside me that my ego jumped on a horse and rode the heck out of there.
Wow.
That's because I think it just collapsed, and so there was this huge opening, and in that opening came everything. And so, yeah, we just need to melt. Our hearts need to open, and we need to get this, out of the way. This knower who thinks they know everything, get this one out of the way, and our hearts open, and then, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And unfortunately, it can take very challenging circumstances for that to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I love a lot of Jim Carrey's work as an
Yeah.
actor, but he's also a beautiful artist, and I love his philosophies on life. He has a famous quote I'm paraphrasing that says, "I wish everyone could become rich and famous and realize it's not the key to happiness, or that's not everything. It's something around
Yeah.
that." He's like, "I wish
Yeah.
everyone could achieve this, so you could see it's not the answer."
Yeah.
You were like a rocket ship, right, that went into another universe with The Secret in terms of the movement that you created and the success and the abundance that came into your life and the opportunities. I'm curious, did you still face any challenges, even
Oh,
with all the acknowledgement and success and 30 million copies or however many is it sold now? Did you still face a lot of challenges personally in that last,
yeah, I
decade?
did. I did. They were situations that were sort of outside of what I was creating, because I was creating all kinds of, amazing things. But then there are people around me that I love and they're creating, and so I had, a daughter who was really, really sick at one stage, and I was really afraid, fearful for her life. And so I had a whole bunch of negative thoughts that kind of took me down over that. And I went through really, really big wildfires in California. But by the time the wildfires came, they didn't affect me because I'd already had the second awakening. So I was just like cool with whatever happened. But between those two books, there were definitely things, in particular my daughter, who was really struggling. So yeah, there are things, that happen that are outside of what you are creating for yourself, but still affect you because others are creating that.
Right.
And so,
So even though you had the best-selling book of the last couple decades and all these opportunities and the abundance, and you didn't have to worry about those things anymore, it still didn't mean you didn't have your own challenges to overcome.
that's right. And you know what? I think, as I've traveled along, we're always going to have them. We're always going to have them because everything in the universe is conspiring to send us home. And the way to get us home is to have challenges so that we question things and so that we open up. And so I think we will always have challenges, big but you can get to a point where they don't seem like challenges at all, where they just seem like nothing. They don't bother you. You're not at all concerned. That's not a problem, you know. And when the wildfires came, for example, I evacuated and I had a house full of, you know, beautiful things. I didn't take anything with me because if I took a whole lot of stuff with me, that would be saying to the universe, I think it's going to burn down, right? So I wasn't going to take anything with me. And I didn't want to anyway. And I was just fine with whatever happened. It was, if it got engulfed, then that meant that the universe needed to move me in a different direction. And I was totally fine with that. And I would know that it's for the better and for more amazing things. So I was really fine, and all the people around me were all panicked. They're like, oh, it's so close, you know, it's burning houses in your street. And I was just like, honestly, I never felt a shred of fear or anything at all. I was just fine with it. And so that's the way we can be. You can have challenges, and in our community, there were really bad mudslides after those fires.
Yeah, I know. People's homes were being swept away.
Yeah, and took out, you know, but some of my dearest friends died in that and lost houses and everything.
This was Santa Barbara area, right?
Yeah. And so, but I mean, I was able to be of enormous help to the people around me because I was not down in the suffering where they were. I was feeling incredible compassion for everybody and everything that the community was going through. But I knew this community would rise up and be fine again, as they have done. But I just made sure that I made myself available to people to help them in their grief and things like that. And so, but, you know, even that, you know, I was evacuated again for like another 3 weeks or a month. I didn't know if my house was still standing or not.
Right.
But, you know, it was just fine. And I know people would be like, but how, you know, how can you be like that? And there've been other things, you know, really tough things, like my daughter lost a baby, and so all sort of things outside of my creation kind of thing, but it just didn't go into the suffering of those
That's
things,
good.
you know.
How have you learned to eliminate suffering in your personal life through the good and the bad that comes in? Have you feel like you've mastered that where you don't suffer anymore?
I don't feel like I suffer very much, no. And I can't say that I would never again, but I can't imagine what there would be that I would. And
And
really, the way that I did that was really on the journey, which is all in the book, and it is a journey. But one of the things, and it's in The Secret, what you resist persists, right? And so I came to understand that if we resisted negative feelings, then we just push them down inside of us and suppress them. And then they would just be sparking off at every little thing, you know. If you've got anger suppressed inside of you, you can bet there's going to be a whole lot of things in the world that are going to trigger that anger that is pushed down inside of you. And so I actually intuitively worked out that if I welcomed a negative feeling, like imagined like putting my arms around it and bringing it in close to me, what was so amazing, it would intensify for like 1 second to 2 seconds, and then it would just evaporate. You know,
wow.
something that we try and push them away, you know, we don't want to feel them, but we're not pushing them away. We're pushing them down here, which then plays havoc on our body, you know. So one by one, as a negative feeling would arise, I would welcome it.
Wow.
It would dissolve. And then if it came back, it would just never be as strong like it was. It was like really weak. And so then I'd welcome it again until I don't feel it anymore. I don't think it's possible for me to get angry anymore.
Wow. So say someone, say someone you love, or a friend of yours, or someone you love in a relationship is getting angry at you. And they get angry at you for little things, whether it's your fault or not your fault. How would you take on that situation.
Yeah, that wouldn't bother me.
So if someone's just like,
Because
Rhonda, I don't like that you did this, or you're bad in this area, would you get
yeah.
defensive, or would you just
No,
say,
because I would just look at them and see that that is not them. That's the mind and the ego talking, and that's not them. And
that's
so
powerful.
just right, so just wouldn't take that personally because it's not personal actually at all. Even if somebody is coming to you with a whole lot of stuff, it's just a recording, a it's just a program in the mind, and it seems like it's personal, but it's not personal. And so I just wouldn't engage and inflame that situation. And very often what I would do,
What if someone's like, Rhonda, this book is horrible.
that's all right.
I don't like the way you look. They're just saying everything is whatever. They're saying all
Yeah.
these things. They're trying to attack you.
Yeah.
They're trying to put all these negative comments
Yeah.
online. None of that would affect you.
No.
You would just smile and
No.
say, let me hug this emotion.
Yeah, because everybody's got different opinions, and everybody's in a different place, and I just feel incredible compassion if I see somebody upset, because I know that they have that emotion suppressed inside of them. I know they can't help it. It's like a pressure cooker and it's got to come out. That's why it's not personal, because if the family member that's going at you and they're angry because they've got a whole lot of anger suppressed inside of them. And so what happens is the subconscious mind is desperately looking for a trigger in the outside world to release some of the anger. And so it's just not personal. And so if somebody was like angry, I would just be like, you know what? Think you're right. Think you're right. Just be allowing of that. Now, I can't say that I don't know if every single situation in my life is going to be like that, but I have not felt anger for a long time.
Wow. Now, what if someone's listening saying, well, I feel like someone's walking all over me every time. I feel like I'm a punching bag for their emotions. I feel like they just take everything out on me, whether it's they're married or a couple. What advice would you have for someone in reinterpreting that as opposed to taking it personally if they feel that way?
Yeah. Well, of course, you
Like,
don't want to let people walk all over you too, but you don't want to stop them when you're all full of negative emotion, because then they're going to feel the negative emotion and then there's going to be fireworks, right? And so you can draw the line with somebody, but if you're drawing the line and you're neutral and you're not filled with emotion, it's so amazing to see that person will just comply.
Shift. Yeah.
Yeah. They'll just be like, oh, okay, sorry, didn't realize, because they don't feel any animosity or anything coming from you. So that would be the first thing. But if you cannot be in that kind of place where you're not feeling a whole lot of things, the work is an inside job. It is. If all of those thoughts are coming up from you that, they're beating up on me, they're this, you've got feelings of unworthiness inside of you. This is why it's manifesting. None of those things are true. People are way more magnificent than they realize that they are. They have all the power in the world, and so, so I just think that you just have to, I don't know,
Were you an angry person ever? Or did you have angry emotions at any point in your life?
I did.
Do you remember the moment when you said, this no longer works for me. It doesn't serve me anymore. I'm going to stop being angry. Was there a moment that this happened?
Yeah, I think there was. I just didn't want to suffer anymore. That was really the moment for me.
Yes.
Like I sought the truth. I was seeking the truth because I wanted a way out of suffering. And I've got an incredible life. But when I talk about suffering, what I mean is suffering from the mind. Not suffering from what's happening in the world, suffering from the mind, suffering from this, the constant, mind, getting stuck into us saying, you shouldn't have done that. That was dumb, or I don't know how you're going to go doing that podcast. Or,
right.
I mean, I don't have those thoughts anymore, but I would have all of those things, I'd have to do a pitch and the mind would just be, how are you going to do this without freezing up? How are you going to do it? And so it would just beat me up. And then you have all those thoughts and then you feel really bad. And I just did not want to suffer from the mind anymore. And I was very clear, it's not the world, it's the mind.
What I love this. You're speaking my language here, Ron. I love it. What would you say for someone who has a pretty good life, but they doubt themselves a lot still? Like they want to put this thing out in their world, their book, their artwork. They want to say how they truly feel or the person of their dreams, whatever it is, but they doubt themselves. They have a lot of self-doubt.
So there are two things that are really, really work both brilliantly. One is gratitude. You can do so much gratitude,
Gosh,
and
so
then
true.
that will just wipe out those feelings. And the other thing is, somebody who's feeling all of those things has a base of unworthiness. And so what will take that out is love. And so if you go about just looking through the day and looking for all of the things you love, I love that about that person. You know, I love this time of the year when this is happening. And, you know, I love this time of the year. I love holidays. You know, even though the pandemic's happening, I still love this time of the year. And I love, I love whatever it is. I love this car that I drive. I feel so blessed that I have this car. Or I love the fact that I'm going to be getting a new car one day, you know? And so I love my bed, and I love my bed. and just look at all of the things that you love and really rampage it every day. Because as you send out all of that love, it gets multiplied and will come back into you, and gone are the feelings of unworthiness.
I love that.
Gone.
I love that. I interviewed Liz Gilbert, who's
Oh, yeah.
someone I love her energy and I love her work, and she's just a sweet woman, making an impact in the world. Obviously, she wrote the book Eat, Pray, Love, which I think did 12 or 15 million copies. Was a similar type of experience for her, where she wrote this book and it took off into a major movie, and all these copies sold over the world, and her life changed forever. And when I interviewed her, one of the things she said is, I may never be able to recreate this type of magic. Like, I may never have read a book that sells 10 million copies again in a year. Hopefully, and I'm going to keep creating the work.
Yeah.
Was this something that ever you faced with as a artist, as a creator who put something out in the world that had such momentum and continues today to like sell to younger generations now and take on a new life of its own? It seems like did you ever feel like, man, will I ever be able to recreate this? Or should I even put this new book out there because maybe it won't do as well as this previous book? Have you ever thought that or had those feelings?
I have had those thoughts way early on, not so much now, because I'm just fine with, with the journey, whichever way it goes.
Yeah.
And the most important thing for me was to write this book, and that it is in the world for generations to come, and for everybody now who is ready for it, and then for future generations. That was the same with The Secret. I just knew The Secret would change lives well after all of us were no longer on the planet. But I'm just so grateful with what happened with The Secret, and that, I just think I'm so blessed to have had that experience that I don't mind, and this book that I've written, for me, like, it's the most important book that I've written. The Secret is just the best book for life on planet Earth. There's nothing better. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. It's got the creative process in it. Ask, believe, receive. You apply it to everything. But this book frees us forever. And so the very fact that it has manifested and is here in the world is all I ever need.
You're very grateful,
and, and then for the lives that change from it, everyone will be a blessing. And
Why do you think we suffer so much? I've studied a lot of meditation with different teachers and been to India, and I've got my own theories, but I'm curious, why do you think we suffer as a human race so much?
Well, mostly we're ignorant of the truth, and that causes us suffering. But like all suffering comes from the mind. It doesn't come from the world, it comes from the mind. And so we suffer more from the thoughts by believing our own thoughts than we do from anything in the world. And, the thoughts about 2020, way more terrifying, than the mind just conscious, like the mind loves a drama.
Loves.
It loves a drama. Like it will just give you so many scary thoughts around a drama and get you so worked up, and but the mind, unfortunately, it is just our greatest tool to create the life that we want to have, but we're in a duality, so it is equally can be our torturer.
Oh man. It's funny you say that because again, growing up, I was studying this book called Science and Health by a woman named Mary Baker Eddy, who wrote this book. And she said, stand porter at the door of thought, because those who stand porter at the door of thought, they're able to admit the good and reject evil. Those are the ones who are assured of a happier, healthier, more rewarding human experience. If you can truly be a guard to negative, evil thoughts, drama thoughts, stress thoughts, gossip thoughts, judgment thoughts.
Totally.
And one of the practices my dad did is when we were watching football and TV growing up, he would turn the commercials off. He wouldn't allow me and my siblings to watch the commercials because most of the commercials in the US, at least growing up and today, were around pharmaceutical drugs.
Lack of health.
You need this drug to help you with this thing, and you're sick and you're sick and you're sick.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder, I think it's 2/3 of our country in America now is either obese or overweight and pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetes. And the amount of medicine that we need, because we're constantly being fed, you are sick. And so when these thoughts enter our mind and consume our thoughts, start to manifest in the physical body. And it's something that I think we need to practice more of. I rarely watch the news because I don't want my brain to take over into this dramatic, soap opera of life.
Yeah, totally.
And I think it's something we need to focus on more of, is being a guard to negative thoughts.
Absolutely. Because one of the ways that this happened in 2020 is because of all of the focus on it. You focus on something, it gets bigger. It's as simple as that. You put your mind on it and it is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we've got the whole world focused on this one thing. And what happens? Here we go again, And so if everybody just took their mind off it, it would disappear off the planet. It'd be gone. So
if you took your mind off of it, if you didn't consume it, talk about it, think about it, obsess over it.
Yep. Every time we talk about it, every time we obsess about it, we're energizing it, we're making it bigger. It's just the way it works.
There's a lot of other problems in the world right now, and there have been, there's a lot of challenges that we're not obsessing over, and therefore we're not manifesting it more because we're not obsessing over it. It's still there. Coronavirus or whatever would still be there, but it wouldn't be so magnified in our thoughts, consuming us.
Yeah,
what is
exactly?
You talk about everlasting happiness in the book. How do we? It seems like you found a pretty blissful place, but that might be a lot of people watching or listening might say, well, it must be easy for Rhonda. She's, mega millionaire. She doesn't have to worry about money. She's got all this, everything going for her. But as the world has shown, there's been many suicides this year from a lot of wealthy people who were unhappy when they seemingly had it all. How do we start to find the journey of everlasting happiness?
Because I'm a bit like Jim Carrey in that, it's one of the really great benefits is when you do acquire all those things that, I was born into really, really humble family. Like they did not have much money, and many people would have considered us poor. And, and then suddenly you get all of these things, and it's all wonderful. That's great. It's horrible being worried about money. It really is.
Yeah.
But that happiness that we think that those material things will bring, it's fleeting, and so I agree with Jim Carrey in that those things are never going to bring you everlasting happiness. And what will bring you everlasting happiness is to know the truth about everything and to know the truth about who you are. And that will bring you everlasting happiness, because that will take away all of the things that everybody is worried about, like death. All of those things will be resolved. And then everything falls into place, You're just like, wow. And the world and the manifestation of the world becomes even more incredible than it was. And when you're not fearful, you love so deeply. The love that you have is so deep. And so here you are in this state of, I'm of total allowing, and I don't mind what happens. And you just got this undercurrent of happiness. Well, just imagine what law of attraction does with that. No resistance, just allowing, it's so amazing. I mean, you don't even have to think of something, and it just comes into your life. Like, it's so fast. And one thing that I will say for sure is, I think, like I've always felt, life works in the opposite way to the way we were brought up. Potentially not you, Lewis, because you were so fortunate. But for most of us, it works in the opposite way to what we've thought. And one of the things is, we've all been driven to achieve and, struggle to get somewhere. And you've got to work really hard, to get money. There's a belief, no, you don't, that's not the case all of the time at all. And so we like struggle and pushed and effort. And the most extraordinary thing is this, is that the more effortless you are, the greater you manifest everything that you ever dreamt of.
Yes.
Because when you have effort, you are saying, I don't have this. You're saying, I don't have it. And the universe hears, I don't have it. And so when you're efforting, you're like, I don't have it, I'm not worthy enough, I need to work harder, I need to really struggle. But if you are just completely effortless, everything just comes, because there's no resistance stopping any of it.
There's a lot of, I'm a big fan of this, but I also understand the principle of working hard. As an athlete, I would have to wake up early, train to grow, and learn my craft, and put in, years of practice. That was hard work. I got to grow my muscles. It's not growing, effortlessly at that age. So and some business owners will say, the key to building a successful business is, working hard, building the right team, but showing up consistently every day.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to that thought? Around hard work, and for a lot of people,
as an athlete, then you would definitely know those times when you perform brilliantly,
and it was effortless. Right. It was effort. You're in the zone. You're in the flow.
You're in the zone. You're in the flow.
Yeah.
It's just extraordinary, It's like something is moving your body. It's just like it's the most incredible thing. And actors too have the same experience. They will have this moment when they're on stage or acting, and suddenly the ego is not there and they are just flowing. Like, it is incredible. And I heard an actor talk about that and say all actors crave for that moment, and so because effort comes from the ego and from the mind. That's where it all comes from. So we can do and achieve and have all of those things without all of that effort. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the difference between, I guess, there's still a level of needing to master your craft though, right? Like, you became a great producer and a director and creator. That doesn't come after 2 days of not working on your craft, right? Because you worked on your craft for a decade or two until you had the skill set, the knowledge, the wisdom to then put out what you needed to.
You're still doing things. And this is the thing, because being effortless doesn't mean you're not doing things. What it means is there's no effort in what you're doing. So so you're still doing things, but it's effortless. Like, you were still working out, but it was effortless. And so, because the minute you feel like you're struggling, that's the mind and that's the ego stepped in, and then it's not flowing, and people will find when they're struggling, there's that goes wrong, and then that goes wrong, and that goes wrong. And so you still do things. And I still did all of those things. Like, before The Secret, I did everything with effort, full effort, 1000%.
Hard work, full effort. Yeah.
Total queen of effort.
And you were lacking abundance and you were
Totally.
lacking big results. And
Yeah, yeah. And so now I do like I sat down to do this book. This book was absolutely effortless.
really,
Oh, oh my gosh. Absolutely the most effortless book that I have written, for sure. I mean, amazing, really amazing. And so when I was writing I wrote The Secret in 2.5 weeks
2.5 weeks.
because it just like, wow. Because I'd made the documentary, I'd done all these practices. I knew what I wanted to share, all of the things that I wanted to share in The Secret. And so, I mean, we spent, about 6 weeks in the editing process of it, but it just came like a rush. And that 2.5 weeks was effortless. And when I did this book, it was effortless. And there have been books that I've gone to write where it's been a lot of effort.
Really?
Yeah. And I just have to stop because I remember I wrote a book and I never published it, and it was all effort. And
you were forcing it. You were
forcing it. And so then what you're writing about is you're just writing a whole lot of recycled stuff that the mind is turning up, and you are not receiving things from beyond the mind, and you want to have things beyond the mind. That's why when you're an athlete and that flow and everything, that's because the mind has stopped, it's gone to the background, and now you're beyond the mind. And when you're beyond the mind, anything's possible.
Yeah. You're tapping into a greater source than
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
What is some truth that you have now about life, about the world, and about manifesting? You've gone through a journey from The Secret to The Greatest Secret, and you've had obviously some other big books in between, but what are the main truths you've discovered in this journey?
The world is not what we think it is. The world is different from what it appears to be. And even science, quantum physics will tell us that, with the observer effect, and, nothing comes into form unless there's a mind observing it. And so the world is not what it appeared to be. And I always thought that it was separate, and this is a separate one here. And, this one's born and dies, and, and everything's separate, and time is real. And this, from here to my toes is who I am. And they're the things that are not true, and that you have to work hard and struggle. And I had no idea of the power of the mind. I had no idea of the power of the mind to manifest, and the power of the mind to sabotage us, to harm us. But I'm really clear about it now. And so, I mean, that's just, those things are the greatest things that I would say for anybody, because when you see the truth, and you kind of got to see it, it's not an intellectual thing. It's like, I think in The Greatest Secret, I talk about, when you see those paintings where you just have to shift, there's
3D.
Yes. Where there's two paintings in the one,
yes.
Right? And first of all, you can see the one really, really clearly. And somebody says to you, there's a woman on a horse in that painting, right? But you can only see, the chipmunks in the corner. You can't see the woman on the horse. And they're like, you've just got to change your perspective ever so slightly, and the woman on the horse will come into view. Well, that is exactly the same as it is to see the truth. Exactly. Rubens' vase. Exactly. And so what do people see? Do they see a vase, or do they see
two women, right? Yeah. Or
right.
Two faces.
Right.
Yeah.
Looking at each other. And you can see when you flip from one to the other and that is really what it's like. We see the world is solid and us is separate. But if we just shift our perspective ever so slightly, we see something entirely different that is completely freeing.
What was the perspective you still needed to shift in the last 5 years?
The mind.
The mind?
Working on the mind, just watching it come up, watching beliefs come up, and being the witness. You said something so wonderful, Lewis, before about what you were taught to watch those negative thoughts, but just watching the mind instead of like being hypnotized by it, and getting lost, getting lost in it. But it's and sometimes it would just, and I'd be lost, and then I'd come out of it, I'd be like, whoa, you just disappeared with the mind, you just went thought after thought after thought after thought. But even if you only realize it the next day, at least you realized it. It's great. It's a win. It's a really big win. And it's just kind of watching the mind, and then the mind gets very still. But certainly I would say for people who've have followed The Secret and who've integrated the law of attraction into their life, that is a massive step.
Yeah.
Because training your mind to positive. And I could tell how joyful you are and positive you are a person, just naturally that way. And so it's really easy. That's the first step, is to get the mind into positive programming. And that is so easy to do. A day of gratitude, you will see the difference the next day. It's easy. And so getting it to be positive, and then it's much easier, because then you're dealing with positive thoughts and you've weakened the negative thoughts. And so then you have an opportunity when a bit of drama happens and you see them come in, the mind comes in, whoa, watch out, you better be careful. Then they stand out more to you. And just the biggest thing in our life for everybody is to become aware of your thoughts.
So true. What's the
Right?
thought you have the most right now that you're aware of in your day-to-day life?
Who I am, to remember who I am.
Who are
is
you?
the thought.
Who are you, Rhonda?
Consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's and that thought isn't even coming from the mind, because the mind can't recognize consciousness.
Ooh.
Yeah. It has no hope of doing it. It can't ever do it. So when you have a thought like that, is coming from consciousness, coming from above the mind. There's this wonderful teacher who's in the book, Muji, and he said, and he may not have even meant this quote in this way, but I always took it in this way because I absolutely loved it. He said, you have to be like the cow that jumped over the moon. And I'm like, that's it. You got to be like the cow that jumps over the mind. That's what you've got to be. And I don't know if he ever meant it like that, but that image for me, that I would use that a lot. I've got to be like the cow that jumped over the mind. And that just helped me so much to stop identifying with the mind, stop identifying with it and just to watch it. And it's glorious. Think about what you want, think about it, and it'll come, it'll appear. But then just be aware of your thoughts.
Wow. What do you want the world, again, I don't know any interviews I can find of you online. What do you want the world to know about who you are?
Who I am, consciousness.
What is something that you want the world to know about? Who's Rhonda in the world today? What is the thing that you think people might misinterpret about you? Because again, there's not a lot of content of you doing interviews online.
Well, I think there's always going to be, because it's a duality, there's always going to be the resistance to anything. And we've seen through history that when somebody comes out with big ideas, new ideas, let's just take Galileo, for example, big new ideas, there is pushback because it's a duality, right?
Yeah.
And so I just see that as part of it. This is part of the world, and there is going to be that. And so I don't mind, and I don't really see, I don't really regard Rhonda as something tangible. So I really wouldn't even mind what anybody thought.
I love that.
I don't mind.
You don't mind.
I don't mind. I guess if there was anything, she was dedicated to the truth. Consciousness was dedicated to delivering the truth in the simplest way possible through that form.
That's beautiful.
Because somehow or another, this particular body mind has a real connection to simplicity, loves simplicity. And so I just want everything to be simple, for people to understand it's also simple. And in actual fact, the greatest secret is simple. So simple. 3 words will get you there. Actually, 3 words will get you to who you are. However, it's all of the beliefs and the opinions and the fixed ideas we have in our mind that then will make something very simple complicated,
Right.
Well, I can't do that, I'm not Buddha, I'm not Jesus Christ, I can't do, I'm just this, and yeah.
What are those three words?
Are you aware?
Are you aware? Because if I'm not aware, I'm in suffering, I'm in lack, I'm in frustration, anger,
Mm-hmm.
resentment, judgment.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm aware, I can get to a place of inner peace,
Yeah.
abundance, love.
Yeah, because you can only be aware in the present moment.
Mm,
You can't be aware in the past and the future. Well, they don't
right.
exist anyway. So that's, they're just relative. And it's important, we've got calendars, so you and I know to connect at this
Sure,
time and everything. So, but it's not real. And I mean, even Einstein told us that. But that's a hard nut to crack, time, because,
Yes.
it's a hard one because the mind is born in time. The mind creates time. And so if you try and understand that there's no time with the mind just goes to, you just go to marshmallow. You're like, oh, God.
What's interesting? Another principle my dad taught me, he would always say that, there is no time. It's infinite.
Yeah.
The time is infinite.
Yeah.
And he would also never celebrate my birthday as a kid growing up. And I
Oh,
never
wow.
understood it. And I've told this
Wow.
story a few times to my audience,
Yeah,
might
yeah,
recognize it, but
yeah.
I never
Wow.
understood it
Amazing.
until later in life. I was like,
Yeah.
12 or 13. I was like, Dad, why don't you celebrate my birthday? Do you not love me? And he sat me down and he's like, it's not that I don't love you. It's that I don't want to put a number on your age to limit you, because so many people in this world say they're too old, they're too young, so they can't do
Wow.
this, or their time is past. And I
Wow.
never want you to be limited by time.
Oh my
And
gosh, Lewis, that is so beautiful.
it was, at the time I was like, yeah, but
So
can't you just give me a
beautiful.
cake and some presents?
Yeah, I mean, you could get the cake and the presents, but then that would kind of condition you
Right.
too. I mean, that is absolutely beautiful. That's pure love. That is not to want to condition you to time, because it's not true. That age, that number of your birthday, that's not true. That's not true. You're ageless. We're ageless. We don't have an age. We didn't have a beginning and we don't have an end. And so I just think that was beautiful because so impressionable as children, and it just all goes into the subconscious mind, and then you've just got to get it out.
Yes.
Like we go through life and all of this stuff goes in, and then the way to freedom is not acquiring anything, it's taking it out. It's taking it out.
Simplifying our lives.
Simplifying. Yeah.
It's like people want to get big houses and then stuff it with things, and then they realize,
Yeah.
I've got to manage all this stuff now.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I
just
did
want
that.
and I want a simple life.
Yeah.
I'm all for having nice things and quality and, great experiences and everything. But I find myself every few months being like, gosh, I just want to get rid of things in my closet and like clean
Yeah.
the space
Oh,
so
it's
I can have a
beautiful.
decluttered space for a decluttered mind.
Yeah. And because the more that the mind quietens, and the quieter that it gets, the more orderly you have to have your life. The more order you want in your life. I've really noticed that about myself. Like, it's just the order. I want everything in order, and no kind of chaos or anything. And
Yes.
chaos, of course, is the mind, and so expressing itself, the chaos inside.
Yeah. What do you feel like is missing in your life right now at this stage of your life?
Wow. Interesting question. Total full self-realization.
Mm,
Full. I'm certainly, along the way a little bit. And the book is full of teachers that have been self-realized, enlightened,
yes.
whatever word you want to use, for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell by the way that the mind is not, the mind is quiet, and I can tell the way things don't bother me anymore. Like people that used to bother you, and situations that used to bother you, when they come up, I'm like, how was it that they ever bothered me? I don't even get, why did they ever bother me? I don't see anything wrong with them. And so I can tell just that, and the happiness that is with me each day. But just more of that, more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Just more of it.
I've got a few more minutes with you. A couple of final questions for you to respect our time together. This is a question I ask everyone at the end of our interviews. It's called the
Okay.
3 truths. It's a hypothetical question.
Okay.
So I'd like you to imagine that you get to live as long as you want to live in this earth, in this body, and in this physical mind, right? And
Right.
and you've achieved everything you want to create in the world from this point on till as old as you want to live physically. You've created it all. You've seen everything come true. You're self-realized, self-actualized. You've got more books and work. It's all happened. But for whatever reason, it's the last day. And for whatever reason, in this hypothetical scenario, you've got to take all of your body of work with you. So no one has access to the secret. No one has access to the greatest secret. No one has access to, just imagine, it's a hypothetical.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've got to take it all with you to the next place, wherever that is. But you get to leave behind 3 things that you know to be true from your entire life and your existence. And these are only 3 lessons that you could share with the world. And that's all they would have to remember you by, are these 3 things. What would you say are your 3 truths?
Focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. Who you really are is deathless, infinite being, pure love, beauty. Those things are fine, I think. I was going to think of a whole lot of other beautiful things that we are, but
That's number 2.
And there is no death. You know, a mentor of mine said to me many years ago, he said, the greatest moment of life is the moment of death.
Wow.
I know.
It's crazy.
And I said, why is that? And he said, because all the negativity falls away. It's all gone.
All the suffering, the negative thoughts.
All gone. And he said, it's the greatest moment. And he said, if everybody knew that, they wouldn't stay.
Wow. That's crazy. Who would you say has been the most influential person in your life from birth to now? And what was the greatest lesson they've taught you?
Gosh, I've had so many angels at my table, I call them, that have been incredible in my life all along the way, pre-secret, post-secret. But hands down is my teacher, hands down, because when I first met her, she walked into a room and I understood that, being told she was a student of 2 of my favorite teachers, Lester Levinson and Robert Adams. And I walked up to her to say, I can't believe that you're a student of these 2 incredible beings. And, you know, I walked up to her and went to speak to her. And in that moment, I was home. Anything negative, any negative memory, everything was gone. Wow. And I was in so much bliss and happiness and just tears pouring down my face. And I was like, I thought she would think I was crazy. And she said to me, she just said, come with me. And she took me into this lovely sort of sitting area away from everybody, where everybody was, because I was at a retreat, not her retreat, but I was at a retreat. And I sat down with her and that was just the most incredible. So it's definitely my teacher, and my teacher showing me constantly who I really am, and constantly showing me the tricks of the mind that she calls the troublemaker. Yeah.
What's her name?
Definitely her. She wants to remain anonymous.
Okay,
so
cool.
All of her teachings are through the book. I've shared, she's allowed me to share all of the words that she shared with me, and all of the practices, and they're in the book. And in fact, all of the teachers in the book, every single one of them changed my life. They've all been my journey from the secret to now. And so every one of them has, some of them I followed for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, and some of them, 1 year or a month, but every single one of them has impacted my life in a really huge way. And so they are the journey from the secret to now. Yeah.
Yeah. You have a lot of quotes from your teacher.
I do.
And your teacher says, don't believe the troublemaker. And it's got a
That's right.
troublemaker right there. This This has been a pleasure. I've got one final question for you, Rhonda, but I want to make sure before I ask it to let everyone know they can get this book, The Greatest Secret, right now. You can get it online, Amazon. You can go to your website, rhondabyrne.com. That's BYRNE. You can go to thesecret.tv, and I'm sure there'll be links everywhere where they could find this book. And also get this for a friend or your whole family. This is going to be extremely powerful, especially going into 2021, for you to understand the wisdom in this book. So get a few copies for yourself. Make sure to share it online. And you're not very active yourself personally, I don't think, on social media, but you have Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that is active with the secret types of
Yes, and I do write a lot of things. Like during the pandemic, I was writing a lot of things to help people get through that. So I was really, and the team post those things, but I was really, really focused during that time. And a lot of the things they posted, things that I've written, like I'll write scrolls and then they'll use those pieces on social media. So the other thing is too, the audiobook is being released, and I'll get the guys to send you a code. I think it's nearly finished. It has all of the teachers' voices.
Wow, that's
and
cool.
I always read my books, and we produced it because I have a production company. So, and it's amazing. It's like a whole new level of audiobooks. So,
wow.
So if people don't read, as I know a lot of people don't read, then the audiobook is absolutely amazing.
Is this on audible.com or is this just on your website?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay. It's going to be everywhere. Yeah,
that's
but
amazing.
On Audible as well. Yeah.
I'm very excited for this. I want to, before I ask you the final question, I've got one final question, Rhonda. I want to acknowledge you for a moment, because you are an incredible gift, and you have this joyful energy, this childlike energy that continually is curious to find answers for your life. And then you're so giving in what you learn that you create it and you package it in a way that is beautiful, that is easy to consume in a complex idea type of world. So I want to acknowledge you for constantly showing up, even when you don't have to do anything. You created the secret, you made it in a lot of people's mind, but you keep showing up to add value to the world. And for me, I'm really grateful that you are here and constantly showing up. So I acknowledge you for that.
Thank you so much, Lewis. It's the sweetest thing. Thank you.
Of course. And I hope we can connect in the future sometime.
I do too.
We're both in California, so hopefully we'll get to say hi and give you a hug sometime when I can. My final question for you, and again, I want to make sure people get the book. They follow you on social media. We'll have all this linked up. But my final question is, what's your definition of greatness?
Wow. Who we really are. That's my definition of great. Actually, that's the only greatness there is. Wow. So I would say any greatness that we see in the world is the greatness of the infinite being that we are. I would say that absolutely categorically. There can be no other greatness than the greatness of the infinite being manifesting through all people. Yeah. I actually think everybody is filled with greatness. They just need to realize that. Yeah.
Rhonda Byrne, The Greatest Secret. Thank you so much for being here.
Lewis.
I appreciate you very much.
I loved it. Thank you very much.
If a person's income is not continually growing, then it's dying. Our income should be continually growing. And I think you should always want to earn more, not to have it, but to be able to use it, but it's going to cause you to reach. Money is a reward received for service rendered, so you got to provide more service. So whatever you're doing, you got to do it better than you're now doing it.